Coming up on the Fox Chicago Week in Review. The city gathers to mourn Reverend Jesse Jackson. The Park District plans for life without the Bears. The drug kingpin murder impacting Chicago. Plus, charges after a delivery driver's death. The Bears plan for the draft. And driverless cars take a tour of Chicago. This is your Fox Chicago Week in Review.
Yes, you guys. The Lincoln Suns just pulled up right outside of the headquarters. You can see a couple of the gentlemen walking down the stairs now to lead the procession to take Reverend Jackson's body inside for the second day. Everybody paying the respects to the late Reverend. He's meant so much, not just to Chicago, but really to the entire country as well. I've gotten a chance to speak with a lot of different individuals so far this morning. There's a woman who literally beat us out here. We got here about 7 a.m. and she was already the first in line. She said that is just how much the Reverend Jackson meant to her. And also spoke with an older gentleman who is 80 years old. Says that Reverend Jackson is just 4 years older than him. He was out here yesterday and he said that he missed the Reverend, so he made it a point to come out here for a second day as well, just to pay some of those final respects. I'm going to lay out a little bit as they are getting ready to take the Reverend's body inside. Let's take a look. You can see some of the Jackson family following the casket into the headquarters of Rainbow Push this morning as everybody's getting ready to pay their final respects to the late Reverend here in Chicago. And doors here at Rainbow Push will open up at 10 o'clock this morning. I'm here joined by Mike Halbert, who is one of the many people here in line to pay their final respects to the late Reverend Jackson. Why was it so important for you to be here today?
I think it was important because Reverend Jackson was an iconic figure in the history of not only Chicago, but the world at large. One of the most unique things about Reverend Jackson is that he was always focused on empowering people of all races, all colors, all creeds. That is why we're here today. That's why we have the type of people we're here today.
What was going through your mind when you literally saw the family and the pallbearers taking his body inside just a moment ago?
A lot of emotion. To finally see a great man have his rest. He's earned his rest. He served his purpose on this planet, and we're grateful that we had him here.
We had him for 84 years. Where do we think his legacy leaves him all time?
I think his legacy will always be enduring because as long as there are people who are needing people to speak truth to power and to be able to be available for service to others, then his spirit lives forever. It always will be here forever.
What do you hope that maybe younger people who didn't know a lot about the Reverend Jackson, maybe they read about him in a textbook or saw an Instagram reel, what do you hope that they remember about his legacy?
What I'm hoping that they'll not only remember but learn and want to find out more of is the commitment that he had to making people come together as one. I think Congressman Jackson Jr. said that in his statement the other day, where he talked about his father was always about bringing people together.
And he also brought the city of Chicago. What do you think his legacy means to everybody who grew up right here?
For us who have grown up, I've known him and met him at 16 years old. And for me, I know that he has meant a lot to making me know that it's valuable to be of service to people and service to the world.
All right, Mr. Mike Halbert, thanks so much for sharing your own personal testimony of your time with the Reverend Jackson. Thanks again.
So wherever the Bears do end up, there seems to be consensus from both city and state leaders that they will eventually be departing Soldier Field.
Fox 32 Chicago has learned that city and state leaders have been crafting a post-Bears plan for the stadium, and talks have been heating up in recent weeks. Political reporter Paris Schutz joins us live outside of Soldier Field with the exclusive details. Paris.
Yeah, Scott and Dawn, Mayor Johnson might not want to admit it, but the Bears are as good as gone from Soldier Field. It's just a matter of when. So some of these local and state officials are already laying the groundwork for a post-Bears Soldier Field. Hint, it involves a lot of live music, but it could become costly. The Bears pack their bags for Hammond, Indiana, or will they finally agree with Illinois on a package to kickstart the project in Arlington Heights? Wherever the team ends up, city and state officials are laying the groundwork for a Bears-less future at Soldier Field. Fox 32 Chicago has learned that officials with the Chicago Park District have been quietly pitching state lawmakers and the governor's office on a plan in recent weeks, according to both legislative and Park District sources. The plan involves transforming the stadium into a concert and special event venue. Officials estimate the price tag at $630 million, according to a draft of the presentation shared with Fox 32 Chicago. Sources say the money breaks down to around $130 million in direct stadium renovation costs, like a new sound system or new dressing rooms, and $500 million in surrounding infrastructure money to tackle traffic management and parking. Park District officials say a chunk of the cost could be covered by the Bears, who will owe nearly $90 million if they break their lease with Soldier Field before 2033. Park District officials are pitching state lawmakers on a funding package that would include money from the state's road fund, paid for by motor fuel taxes, to help with the infrastructure upgrades. A Park District spokesperson did not confirm or deny the talks, but sent a lengthy statement that reads in part, quote, "Our responsibility is to ensure that Chicago's lakefront stadium continues to serve as a strong public asset that supports park programming and maintenance across the city, vital public services, and the broader tourism economy anchored by the museum campus." According to internal Park District figures, the Bears account for less than 20% of the revenue generated by Soldier Field. The rest comes from outside events like concerts, soccer matches, and a year-round parking garage used for people visiting the museum campus. David Doig is the president of the nonprofit Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives and is the former Park District CEO who negotiated the Bears lease. He says Chicagoans should not write off Soldier Field just because the Bears are.
The options for more concerts, more special events, things like international soccer matches, additional concerts will more than cover that revenue loss. And so I do think the long-term future of Soldier Field as continuing to be a preeminent kind of event venue is very bright.
The current lease also prohibits the stadium from hosting any non-Bears event within 5 days of a home game. That means a Bears loss could open the door for a busier August and September and a more accessible Soldier Field all year round.
One of the missed opportunities we had back in the early 2000s was to make it more of a central kind of war memorial as it was originally built. So I think there are ways to open it up to the public, to make it more of a destination for folks coming to the museum campus.
The Soldier Field plan comes as the city is still on the hook for $500 million in debt related to the cost of the stadium's 2003 renovation. That debt is paid for by a 2% hotel tax, and Park District sources have pitched lawmakers on the importance of big concerts that drive hotel occupancy, which in turn generates the revenue to pay off that debt. Park District officials say a weekend of Beyoncé concerts alone last spring netted $85 million in hotel revenue. Now the question is, can Soldier Field compete with a new dome stadium either in Arlington Heights or Hammond for some of those concerts and big events? That remains to be seen. By the way, Mr. Doig says he's part of a private effort to bring a permanent Veterans Museum and Chicago Sports Hall of Fame here at Soldier Field to be open year-round, to turn it more into a public park space as it was intended many years ago. No response tonight from the governor's office just yet. Scott and Dawn.
Now in that Arlington Heights and Hammond sweepstakes.
Well, I've been told by sources in Indiana that they could take up a vote on the Indiana legislation in the House there on Tuesday, although there's been some new reporting this weekend revealing some of the tax hikes that are going to happen to fund the new Bears Stadium in Indiana. It's going to hit folks in Lake County when they're buying liquor or sales taxes, toll road fees, and so could that derail the effort in Indiana? We don't know. I'm also told not to expect any activity on the Illinois legislation that would provide property tax certainty for the Bears this week. But Kevin Warren, the CEO of the Bears, did say in Cranes this weekend that there are progress in talks with state lawmakers here in Illinois, so it's anybody's guess where things stand right now. It appeared to be a bit of a cleanup effort after that Thursday statement that seemed to indicate the Bears were all but sold on Hammond. Turns out that's just not the case. Both sites still in play.
Yeah, I can tell you, Mencho was one of the world's most powerful drug lords, and while authorities call this a major victory against organized crime, experts say the impacts could be unpredictable. And Mencho, the longtime leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, has been heavily linked to the production and trafficking of fentanyl across the U.S., including right here in Chicago. A former DEA agent says his killing could have ripple effects in the U.S. When a powerful cartel leader is taken out, it often creates a power struggle. Rival cartels may fight for control, which can lead to spikes in violence in Mexico. Other impacts include fentanyl and drug flow risks, which could affect Chicago, heightened border security, further investigations, which could lead to more arrests or raids here in Chicago as well, and local unrest in affected states, prompting travel advisories, which we have seen all weekend.
No question it impacts us here. When you look at CJNG, which is one of the most violent and vicious cartels on the planet, they have members dispatched all over the country to receive various shipments of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and even cocaine. So it is going to affect people, no question about it. And whoever thinks they're in a line to step up is going to do everything they can to try to make that happen and be the next head of CJNG. So the main thing here for law enforcement is to continue doing each and every day what DEA and our partners do and collaborate with the Mexican authorities.
Most importantly, that former DEA agent says this sends a powerful message to other cartels around the world. And if you are planning on traveling to Mexico anytime soon, he encourages you to check for travel advisories.
Chicagoans have been waiting months, years for something to fill this space. It's just a couple blocks from the Mag Mile, and in a matter of months, it will come roaring back to life.
All you have to do is love to be a little bit competitive, enjoy great food, great drink, and you can also start to get into the tribe of F1 fandom.
Once home to the popular Rock Bottom Brewery, the 20,000 square foot space at Grandin State will soon transform into an F1 arcade.
What can they expect? So if you picture Vegas vibes, replace all the slot machines with racing simulators, full motion, which you can see here, and it's matched with a menu that is inspired globally from the food around all the Grand Prix, and a cocktail list designed by winner of Netflix Drinks Masters. So LP O'Brien created cocktails that inspire her from the F1 stories.
Featuring dozens of fast-paced simulators, Liz Norris, who is leading the concept launch in Chicago, says the experience will give fans of all skill levels the chance to put the pedal to the metal on real Grand Prix tracks. Trying it for the first time, the experience delivers a full-throttle thrill, and it's completely different from the F1 video game. In the driver's seat, you'll feel every turn and every bump.
This is our bespoke game. We have 8 tracks available to race, And you can only experience this at an F1 arcade.
From private group events to date nights, the concept hopes to tap into the growing popularity of the sport. Chicago joins 5 other U.S. locations, including Atlanta, Boston, and D.C.
It will be a terrific addition to that area. The proximity to the Red Line will certainly be a draw. I think it's another feather in our cap.
Kimberly Bears, who heads the Magnificent Mile Association, says this is one of many vacancies being filled in the district. Fashion retailer Mango recently opened on the mile. Uniqlo is moving into the old Under Armour, and the immersive magic venue, The Hand and the Eye, is slated to open this spring, to name a few.
This is just a story of transformation and evolution.
An exact opening date has yet to be announced, but when it is here, it will be open 7 days a week. After 7 p.m., the fun will be reserved for 21 and up.
Okay, so Casey, this announcement comes as fans are gearing up for Drive to Survive, the new season on Netflix. It drops tomorrow. So will fans be able to catch any real action in this space?
That's right. Yeah, season 8 comes out tomorrow. And yes, the arcade will be showing all of the Grand Prix races. There are 24 currently. They will be hosting watch parties for every single one.
Coming up, murder charges after a delivery driver is carjacked. Bears brass talk the draft. And the city may have overcharged for parking tickets. And the
Prosecutors are sharing the victim was delivering an order to a doctor at Loretto Hospital in Austin when the woman who is now in custody allegedly stole his car and ran him over with it. According to court documents, it was that doctor who found 28-year-old Daniel Figueroa in the hospital's parking lot and called 911. Sadly, Figueroa, who lives in the western suburbs, did not survive. Hours later, police arrested 33-year-old Montoya Perry in Maywood after tracking Figueroa's stolen van using license plate reader technology. Perry has been charged with first-degree murder and carjacking. She has a long rap sheet with 8 prior felony convictions, including aggravated battery, burglary, and forgery. Emotions were running high at the courthouse today. At one point, an argument broke out between the two families in the hallway. After the hearing, Figueroa's mom shared her grief.
I just don't want this to happen to anybody else's family. He's 28 years old. I'm not going to let his name go in vain. And I love you, Daniel, wherever you're at. I just pray with the help of the justice system and everyone involved that Daniel gets justice.
Now, at the time of his killing, Perry was on pretrial release for another incident that happened earlier this month, allegedly resisting and obstructing police. She is due back in court in mid-March for this case. Reporting live from the Layton Criminal Courthouse.
A different experience at the Combine this year for Bears general manager Ryan Poles. For the first time since he's been Bears GM, he doesn't come down to Indianapolis with a first-year head coach or a top 10 draft pick, instead dealing with cap constraints and a late first-round pick as the Bears will draft 25th overall. However, still plenty to talk about when it comes to the Bears, including them not receiving 2 third-round compensatory picks for Ian Cunningham, getting the Atlanta Falcons GM job, both which he and Ryan Poles believe the Bears should get.
You know, they had a rule in place. You know, Ian's the general manager. He's running the team, putting the roster together, drafting, free agency, everything the traditional GM does. I try to make it very clear. The energy and effort to help develop Ian is for his development, and really it was for us to be as successful as we could be as a football team and putting the roster together. Delegated a lot to him. So that when he had the opportunity to get into the GM chair, he was further along than I was.
When it comes to trade talks, Ryan Poles said they expected to get a handful of calls for backup quarterback Tyson Bagent, to which they have received a few. And when Ben Johnson was asked about his backup QB, he said he believes Bagent is a top 32 quarterback in the league.
He's a phenomenal football player, first and foremost. He's a fierce competitor, which I think that's really how that whole room is wired. I think Caleb's the same way. Like these guys, they want to go out there, compete, have the ball in their hands. I've dusted off the same game plans in the preseason every year that I've been a play caller. And this is probably the first year with him at the helm that we actually had a quarterback complete over 60% of his balls. And I think he was close to 70% completion, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And so, I mean, that's just a credit to him.
And even though the Bears are drafting later in the first round with the 25th overall pick, Ryan Poles said they will draft best player available.
I went through this lawsuit, and there are a lot of scathing allegations really against the city of Chicago. In this case, this man got hit with a $1,600 fine for 4 city sticker violations. That's exactly what happened to Kyle Garchar back in 2018 when he couldn't pay the fines. He couldn't legally drive his car. And since he was working as a rideshare driver at the time, that basically meant he couldn't work at all.
Until I got set up in, I think it was like a payment plan. I wasn't able to continue driving, and then I think there was additional fees and whatnot, like to enter the payment plan, and then if you defaulted, there's additional fees. So it's one of those things where it just stacks up, and it just perpetuates a cycle of indebtedness to the city. Then you won't get a ticket.
And that's when Garchar decided it wasn't fair, and he had to do something about it. He is one of 2 plaintiffs in this lawsuit against the city of Chicago over parking sticker violations. Tickets turned into debt because of late fees. A judge says it went way too far and ruled that the city violated state law by charging penalties that exceeded a $250 cap on municipal fines. 16 years ago, the city started to raise ticket prices to the point where several exceeded that cap. City stickers went from $100 to $200 with an additional $200 late penalty. People unable to pay lost their cars, and even many city workers lost their jobs.
One of our plaintiffs in that case, the city issued something like 35 tickets to him over the course of a month. And I mean, do the math, it was tens of thousands of dollars. And again, this is not a safety issue. These people weren't speeding or running red lights or causing any safety hazard. Make no mistake, this practice has harmed the most vulnerable people in the city. End of story. And it's spanned now 3 different administrations, and not a single one of them has done anything about it.
Now, if this stands, Chicago must refund nearly $70 million in overcharges, plus another $34 million in interest. The judge also wiped out nearly $94 million in unpaid fines and fees that haven't yet been collected. The city says it is eyeing a possible appeal. Of course, this is a story we will follow closely.
Celebrating Black History Month at times requires us to confront painful periods in our nation that garnered a sense of resilience in many Black Americans today. Right now, through March 15th, Chicago's newest live theater space, nestled in Humboldt Park, is doing just that with their inaugural production in their new home. Trial in the Delta, the murder of Emmett Till, is all about the moments that led to a movement calling for nationwide change. And I recently had the opportunity to check it out for myself and filed this report.
Night after night this Black History Month 2026, people are pouring into Collaboraction's new House of Belonging in the Kimball Arts Center for a communal trip back in time for a trial in the Delta.
Collaboration is a social justice, social change theater.
The nonprofit has been around for 30 years and allowed us to go behind the scenes.
This is more than art for this is their activism. This is how they show up and bring their talent to, creating a beloved community.
One by one, ahead of the evening's immersive theatrical event, this diverse ensemble shared that even 7 decades removed from Emmett Till's tragic trip from Chicago to Mississippi, their mission in bringing audiences inside the courtroom where his mother sought justice for her child's death still carries with it a great weight.
I love theater as the moment before the play starts, where the lights go down and you just go, okay, here we go. That's the magic of live theater.
When people saw what happened to my son, men stood up who had never stood before.
N.K. Gutierrez plays Mamie Till Bradley.
Mamie lived a nightmare so that I could live my dream. How she stood in the pain and the power all at once of what happened to her child, and how she wasn't going to let it just go by the wayside and stand up for herself no matter what.
Steve Silver takes on the role of lead defense attorney J.J. Breland.
If that's identification, that places these men at that scene, then none of us are safe.
He invoked everything from the Bible to the Founding Fathers.
Mamie describes in her book that he was an attack dog.
and so I need to be truthful to that.
His antics are all to get the jury to see why, at the time, Emmett Till's accused killers, who would later confess to the heinous crimes, should go free.
What was the hardest moment for you in the play?
Closing argument is this over-the-top speech, really not just defending the defendants, but defending the whole white supremacist way of life.
In their own words, because the co-adapters of this docudrama couldn't modify the original transcripts.
And we had to find the narrative in that 400 pages, and we couldn't add a single thing.
What do you want audiences to walk away with?
So I think the biggest thing, and Willie would say this for sure, is we want to keep the casket open. Just like Mamie Till she wanted the casket open so the world could see what had happened to her son, and so it doesn't happen again.
For years, Black families had fled the South, seeking refuge in Chicago from racial terror. But when Emmett Till's mutilated body returned north, it was a reminder of the very nightmare the Great Migration was meant to outrun.
Well, I looked at the face. I just looked it over very thoroughly, and I knew definitely that it was my boy, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
But this woman who didn't have a care in the world had to, her life flipped upside down, where she had to care about everybody's business. You know, we are all each other's, everybody's business.
A sentiment that resonated with thousands as the civil rights movement began months later.
It's in this room that audiences are reminded of just how quickly lives can change and how powerful it can be to use your pain for a greater purpose. And they actually make time after each show for what they call a critical conversation. Yes, assessing the hurt from the past, but how you can use your voice in the future as well.
Right. This story is bigger than basketball. Before this historic season even tipped off, head coach Darryl Moffitt lost his father. 7th and 8th grade teams at Colin Powell from School District 159, they didn't just rally around him. For the first time in school history, both teams brought home the 4A state championship. Coach Darryl Moffitt joins us this morning, along with the 8th grade captain, Jacob Miller, and 7th grader, Avery Armstead. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, first, congratulations for sure. Now, Coach, you lost your father before this season started. How did that loss really kind of shape you personally?
It was tough because my father was my best friend. And it actually did. It happened right in December. It was a tough time. We were getting ready for state. We're thinking state bound. But these guys helped me out. These guys, as long as the teams, I found a way to find strength and purpose within the team. And you know, they really helped me more than I helped them on the court. You know, they really helped me to get through this.
Jacob, when you guys decided to dedicate this season to Coach's dad, what did that commitment look like at practice and behind the scenes?
It looked like everybody putting in work, working hard, making sure that we're not taking no days off, no plays off, no reps off, no nothing off, just working hard so we could complete our mission.
And Avery, as a 7th grader, watching your coach go through that loss, how did that motivate not just you, but all of your teammates as well?
It just made us want to work harder, win state for his father.
Hey, Coach, during this historic run, was there maybe a point during this run where you kind of felt like your dad was there with you?
Absolutely, man. This is it's a touching situation, man, when both teams won. I mean, our boys basketball team has never won state championship. And for that to happen, of course, you know, that was my best friend, man. It's tough, you know. But, you know, I fought through it, and he was with me every step of the way. And these guys really helped me to get through this.
What was that moment like for both of you guys when you came home with this hardware?
It felt great. Just winning state, because we are the first teams to do it in Colin Powell history.
It felt good making history because we were the first team to do it, and it really felt good because it's been one of my goals since I was little.
And you guys obviously playing basketball in Madison also. Grew up playing basketball in Madison myself. What is it that you hope that these kids learn about this experience that will carry along with them forward into adulthood as well?
I want them to remember that I trusted them. Trust was big, you know, it's very important to trust these guys at 11, 12, 13 years old. You know, I've coached, you know, Jacob and his team for 2 or 3 years, Avery the whole year, and trust. I want them to know and remember that I trusted them and they trusted their coach. For me to make adjustments, I had to make adjustments. We had to prepare to beat these teams. And I want them to remember that I trusted them, I believed in them, and they believed in me as well as a coach to do that.
Not only did they believe in you, all of Matson really believed in you guys. What's that support been like from the community?
You know what, the support from the top down, from our superintendent to the Board of Education, all the way down to our CPMS administration, they helped to set us up for success. And that support was huge. Our parents, oh my God, if you got to meet my parents, they are unbelievable. I mean, in the stands, you just feel, it was a different atmosphere this year. And they really helped push us to get to where we want to be. And now we can finally say our boys basketball teams, 7th and 8th grade, are both state champions.
State champions, you guys doing something big. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And definitely, as a fellow District 159 alum, all of us are really proud of you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks for paving the way for these boys as well. Because,
all right.
Yep.
Thank you guys again.
Coming up, the traffic bottleneck baffling Chicagoans, the fight over a former candy factory, and an iconic music venue looks for a new home.
All know traffic is bad in Chicago, but a new data shows that we actually have the worst bottleneck in the country. So can you guess which area this is kind of referring to? Well, I'll tell you, it's where I-290 merges with I-294 and I-88. It's been also known as the Hillside Strangler in the past. Rebecca Brewster is president of the American Transportation Research Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. You're here to explain how this congestion kind of affects U.S. and honestly the economy. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on today.
Let's talk about how does your institute kind of calculate the top bottleneck locations around the country?
So ATRI works with a data set of truck GPS data. So this is data that is trucks sitting in this congestion, and we have hundreds of thousands of freight trucks represented in our data set. We take a full calendar year of data. We're monitoring traffic congestion at 325 locations around the U.S. We look at how slowly trucks are operating and how many trucks are impacted at each location. So speed and volume go into a calculation to come up with the top 100 worst choke points in the country.
Okay, so you have this list and you're able to, share it with everyone, but then how is it used?
So probably the most important use for ATRI's annual analysis, besides confirming what many drivers already know, is state departments of transportation use the findings of ATRI's list to really understand where to target infrastructure investment to make those choke points less congested, to add capacity so cars and trucks can get through easier there.
Let's talk about the impact of these bottleneck locations. You kind of mentioned it in your first answer, but what impact these have on the trucking industry and really on the economy?
So everything we have in our lives comes on a truck, whether it's the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the fuel we put in our cars, it all travels by trucks. And we calculated that this traffic congestion cost the trucking industry $109 billion annually. Well, those costs are going to have to be passed on to consumers, so it drives up the price of everything that you have in your lives.
All right, Rebecca, this is not actually the first time Chicago has been on top of the list. Actually, previously, the Jane Byrne interchange was the #1 truck bottleneck in the country, but they went through a massive redesign, as we all know. We sat through some of that construction and rebuild, and it is now out of the top 25 bottlenecks nationally. Do you think that, knowing this this data, actually seeing it, will kind of urge Illinois to maybe change things, IDOT to change things here in Illinois when it comes to, as we sometimes refer to it, the Hillside Strangler?
Well, we have long held up the Jane Byrne interchange as the reason why this list is so important, because when it was the #1 location for 3 years in a row, the governor of Illinois at that time issued a press release to say the state of Illinois is going to fix what used to be called the Circle interchange, now the Jane Byrne, and through targeted infrastructure investment, we've seen truck speeds, and by virtue of that also car speeds, greatly improve. And you're right, now it's not even in the top 25.
The residents here feel so strongly about the place where candy bars had been made for 95 years, and now they're very protective of that property, which has been shuttered since Mars Wrigley moved out in 2024. At this meeting tonight, they saw another proposal for the future of their neighborhood. Residents packed into Redeemer Church. They want to have a voice in the development since it will become their new neighbor. One group presented their vision, which includes a state-of-the-art library, a Mars History Museum, a grocery store, and an indoor youth sports center. It was proposed in opposition to a plan by McCaffrey Interests to build 500 housing units on the 20-acre site. That plan causes great concern about congestion due to train traffic, busy streets, parking for those units. Neighbors say they want to be involved in whatever plan lands at Mars.
We love our community. We're Galewood. And for the Mars to have one time been a staple and now it's not, we got to make the most of that property. So that's why we're coming together.
And 29th Ward Alderman Chris Taliaferro told the group that it's going to be a $300 million project, the biggest in history in that neighborhood. And he said that Mars has not sold the property yet. So he also says that community is very important and many groups are going to be making proposals for that development. Live in Galewood, Joni Lum, Fox Chicago.
Quick question, Joni. They've been talking about this for a while. Is there a timeline for the project?
Doesn't seem like they know that part yet. They have had many community meetings. They're going to have a lot more community meetings because they say that the input here is very important to the future of that project. But the community, they're wary about that. They're tired of the talking. They say they feel like they're in a David and Goliath battle, but they are in it.
Double Door, of course, the iconic music venue formerly in Wicker Park. They announced that the venue will not be moving forward with their plan to transform the Wilson Theater in Uptown. But that does not mean that we're going to be dashing all hopes of a comeback. Sean Mulroney, the owner of Double Door, is joining us this morning to discuss. So, back in 2018, you were super hopeful that you were going to be able to kind of get things going, and what, money got in the way?
Well, money always gets in the way,
right,
either in a good way or a bad way. Essentially, we found this wonderful building, an old theater that had been empty for 15 to 17 years, and moved forward with that. The city was gracious enough to give us a $5 million grant, but that came with certain terms and conditions. I will tell you that the city employees were fabulous, the ones we worked with. Process, though, for restoring an old building, not as expensive, it's also time-consuming. So during that period of time, I would suggest that the economy is a little different than it was pre-pandemic and still on the mend. So it became like, is this something that that I want to step into? And without that, a little bit of additional money, the project was not feasible.
And I mean, you have to have a certain degree of trepidation with that kind of investment going in. Are we going to be able to make this thing work at that cost level, right?
Yeah, that was certainly the driving force to this decision. But the TIF money that was allocated to the Double Door expired in January 1st. So that money is still with the city.
Okay.
I don't know where it ends up, but it didn't end up with me.
You didn't end up in the Mulroney bank account. The Double Door has just, you've had the Rolling Stones, Liz Phair, Kanye. The list goes on and on of all the acts that you have had at the Double Door. In your mind, what kind of nostalgia does the Double Door have here in Chicago? And how does that play into your efforts to kind of keep this venue alive, regardless of where you end up putting it in the future?
Well, a wonderful opportunity has dropped into my lap. A good friend of mine, Mike Strandberg, whose family's owned the Gallery Cabaret in Bucktown for almost 40 years, a very eclectic, small tavern that did big band, jazz, open mics. It was very community driven. Has reached out to me, and we're collaborating. So that a little facelift means some paint, different color light bulbs. We're not changing much, but I'm going to bring some of the Double Door programming into this small room, and mix it up with what Mike's had going too, which is this eclectic mix of big band and open mics and jazz and so forth. So I'm looking forward to use this as a way to sort of keep Double Door's expression and musical vision, if you will, alive at this small venue in Bucktown, right next to Wicker Park, where I was for 25 years.
So it's not that far away.
No, and it's a great it's got its own history, and marrying the two together seems to make a lot of sense. And we're going to do that as we keep our options open for a venue that is more affordable or something in that.
Are you optimistic that this deal can happen? I mean, as you sit right now, you're thinking, yeah, we make this go.
Music's what I do.
Just out of curiosity, let's say that the cabaret deal doesn't quite come together. How far out into the city or maybe even suburbs are you willing to look? There, as you and I were talking in the commercial, there may be some vacant property in Northwest Indiana that may come available to you.
All of a sudden, I'm a big fan of Northwest Indiana.
Right, sure.
Well, actually, the Gallery Cabaret, we're doing a soft opening March 1st.
Okay.
And we're picking up the program that was already, we call it booked, was already booked into the room, and start to push some of our stuff in the next couple of months. So we're honoring the neighborhood and the tradition. I don't want to say we're coming in to do a clean sweep. We're coming in just to have some fun together. And that gives me a way to, kind of keep my musical thoughts in a place where I can see what I do, and hopefully that'll translate into the next step for Double Door.
And you say that's a soft opening March 1st?
Yeah,
can the public get in on that?
Yeah, of course. It's a very small room. It's 100 or less.
So only short people can go?
Yeah, well, you want to be in the front.
Want to be okay.
That's what I always said about the Double Door. There were times when we do tall shows and short shows.
Okay.
I don't know.
Seriously?
Yeah, like I will say, Living Color, for example, was the tallest audience I've ever seen.
For that band?
I don't know why, but I walked around, I couldn't see anywhere, and I'm like, there's tall guys everywhere. At any rate, so a lot of great stories from Double Door. We hope to keep more stories coming. And this thing at Gallery Cabaret is it's going to be fun to do something with, not millions of dollars of pressure, just good little local room, putting in a brand new sound system. So what I'm saying is the soft opening is a way for us to kind of ring out the room, bring back some of the employees, bring in some new employees, teach them stuff, and we're gonna, we'll be there every day of the week starting with the 1st.
All right, so that's Sunday then?
Yeah.
Yeah, what time?
The doors open at 5.
Okay.
There'll be some music going on at 7, and they're just kind of old friends and Double Door employees. They're all bringing their bands.
Gotcha. All right, well, Sean, we appreciate you coming in this morning. Wish you nothing but good luck here with this new, maybe partnership with the cabaret. But
yeah, I like it. I'm feeling good about it.
I think the city needs Double Door to stay vital.
Well, don't count me out.
No, we wouldn't do that. Absolutely.
Coming up, new cars, no drivers. Waymo maps out the city. A new dinosaur unearthed by a UFC professor. And dating life in Chicago.
Most driverless cars are out mapping streets in Chicago right now. About a dozen of these cars will be driving east of I-90 from the South Loop up to Wrigleyville.
And all this is happening while lawmakers in Springfield debate the future of driverless cars. Right now, Illinois law doesn't allow driverless cars on the road. So these Waymo cars aren't picking up passengers. There's still a worker sitting up front. State Representative Cam Buckner wants a 3-year pilot program to test a small fleet on the streets.
Waymo's already running into another U.S. city since its first ride in 2017. They've made a lot of waves for some accidents. Just last month, the driverless car hit a kid near an elementary school in Santa Monica, California. The kid's okay, but it makes you think about what happens if something goes wrong in Chicago.
Yeah, Stephanie Buffamonte is in Orlando, where Waymo robo-taxis began picking up passengers this week.
Waymo is officially here in Orlando. This is a self-driving vehicle, and we are going to give it a try, so come on and hop in. All we had to do was hit start ride, and we were off. Woo! Yeah, it is really crazy to see the wheel turn and no one there. Yes, that's right, no driver. Mark Lewis with Waymo took us for a spin to tell us all about how it works.
The world's most experienced driver is controlling those motions and making millions of calculations a second to determine what is the safest route and the most efficient route. And you notice that it's really a natural feeling ride. It's not jerky. It is meant to emulate good human driving.
It's an all-electric vehicle that's also powered by advanced AI tech. The robo-driver has been put to the test, getting millions of miles of real-world driving experience. From making turns and stopping at red lights to navigating traffic and constantly scanning its surroundings. The car does it all on its own, while you sit in the back seat. If we look at the screen there, we're about to pass someone on a bike, and you could see that little figure right there.
That's right. The Waymo driver always
sees them and every pedestrian and makes choices for their safety as well as the safety of the people in the car.
How does it know all that?
Well, we have 29 cameras, 6 radars, 5 LiDAR, 4 audio receivers. All of that comes into play for making safe decisions on the road.
And I'll admit, at first I was a little unsure. How would it feel to sit in a car with no one behind the wheel? But after taking the ride, I was genuinely impressed and really glad I decided to give it a shot.
It's totally understandable that you might be apprehensive when you come into a Waymo, but hands down, almost always by the end of the ride, people say, oh, I forgot that no human is driving us.
In a remote corner of the Sahara Desert, a local scientist unearthed a new dinosaur species. The expedition was challenging and at times treacherous, but it resulted in the discovery of a lifetime.
Led by paleontologist Paul Serino from the University of Chicago, a 20-person team uncovered the fossil of a previously unknown Spinosaurus in Niger, Africa. Serino's first mission took place in 2019 when he found jaw fragments with the help of a local guide. But when they returned as soon as they could in 2022, they made a remarkable discovery. It's been named Spinosaurus mirabilis. The fish-eating dinosaur featured a striking crest. An animation shows how it may have hunted. Serino suspects the dinosaur could have been buried suddenly by a river. He and his team used CAT scans and other technology to help reconstruct its skeleton, bringing it back to life.
We knew that no one had ever seen anything like this. We began to understand the piece we had picked up belonged to this exotic crest, like a scimitar, like a sword coming off the top of the head. It was such an emotional moment because this dinosaur is so exalted, it's so bizarre, it's so rare. No one had found that much of a Spinosaur since 1915. It was everything it was meant to be. We collected more bone, 50 tons, than probably any team will ever collect under the harshest conditions.
A recreation of the Spinosaurus mirabilis skull will be on display at the Chicago Children's Museum, located at Navy Pier, beginning March 1st.
Dr. Serino plans to return to Niger for future expeditions. He is also setting out to build a fossil lab there and help the country establish a museum.
We're breaking down why dating in Chicago can just feel so complicated and what you can actually do about it. Joining us this morning is April Davis, the matchmaker and founder of Luma Luxury Matchmaking. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I want to start with that first line. A lot of women here in Chicago say that it is the land of Peter Pan when it comes to dating men. What exactly do they mean by that?
Well, a lot of women, they just feel that the men don't want to settle down. They know there's a lot of options, there's a lot of distractions, a lot going on, so they keep pushing that marriage point back and back further in life.
And speaking of kind of pushing it back, does it really come down to a numbers game? There's a lot of women who are maybe doing a little bit better financially. What impact is that having on dating here in Chicago?
Yeah, so women, a lot of, Chicago, I call it the Sex and the City effect because it draws a lot of women from all over the country, really, and especially rural places because women they want, the white collar type jobs. And then so there's going to be fewer men if they're looking for a white collar type man to match with. And so it's just this disparity in the gender. So it's harder for those women.
So you got the issues of the finances, and then you got the issues of location as well. If somebody probably lives up north, they probably don't want to travel all the way south down to Beverly, and let alone the suburbs. What impact is locations having on dating?
I mean, it can take 2 hours to get, from the suburb into downtown. So people oftentimes in downtown area or around downtown, they don't want to date somebody in the suburbs and vice versa because a lot of people don't even have a car that live in the city. So it's not really that feasible.
That is a good point as well. And also, there's just never enough time in the day. You got the abs. You're trying to get that promotion at work. How do you say that somebody should maybe find that balance between, I got to live my life and kind of, progress, but I also got to make time for dating as well?
Yeah, well, career is definitely a big distraction along with networking. So when people are working 60, 80 hours a week, there's not a lot of time. And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and they realize everybody's single is now taken and they're alone. So
that can definitely be a really scary feeling. Now, for the next one, maybe somebody's dating, but they're in what we like to call a situationship.
Yes, well, there's a lot of that around. And, you know, the Midwest is, you know, Chicago's still the Midwest, and people are nice, and sometimes they're too nice. And so they're not having those assertive conversations. They're not wanting to say, you know, where are we going? What are we doing? And so that just goes unsaid, and you end up in these situationships.
When's the right time to have that conversation? Are we talking a certain amount of dates? Or when do you feel it's good to have that kind of sit down? What exactly are we doing here?
So it's not necessarily dates, unless you're counting dates as conversations and you're actually talking. So I think it has to do with how the conversation progresses. You know, conversations, you want to allow it to progress naturally. So you probably shouldn't ask that on the very first date, you know, second question out of your mouth. But if the conversation is flowing that way and as it's building, you can ask those questions like, what are you looking for? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to travel the world? You know, what do you want ultimately? Because it is important for people's goals to align, especially for a relationship.
Especially if you've been kind of talking to this person for 6 to 8 months and you want to get married and they kind of want to play the field.
Well, you should have had that conversation a long time ago. Yeah, and listen, when people show you who they are, you pay attention and, you know, listen to that, because a lot of times people think they can change each other, and yeah, don't date potential, date the person who's there.
And if someone is getting ready to watching this morning show and they want to do some concrete work on what they need to do in terms of dating, could you give us one tip that they should do starting this week?
Well, I think the biggest thing, there's so many things, but you know, your confidence is going to shine through whenever you're with anyone on a date. And so what can you do to improve your confidence? There's physical, there's emotional, and gathering from other people and hobbies and stuff like that. So work on yourself ultimately to build your confidence.
This has been your Fox Chicago Week in Review. Until next time.